Nigerian cities witnessed peaceful protests on Tuesday, the 27th of February 2024, as members of organized labor flooded the streets to demonstrate against economic hardship and spiraling inflation confronting the citizenry. The Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) on Tuesday night directed its members to suspend the second-day nationwide protest, saying it has achieved great success on the first day nationwide. The NLC President Joe Ajaero, who gave the directive shortly after an emergency National Executive Council meeting of the Congress, said the street protests might be suspended, but engaging the media won't stop. Welcome to Inside Today. I am Jumai Manson. I am being joined by Michael Akan. Sit back. The program continues shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Inside Today, and of course in-house correspondent Michael Edikan is here with me in the studio today. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm very good and quite very happy that NLC had to understand with government to suspend the strike.
But truly, looking at it critically at the beginning, the protest that is not strike.
The protest,
it has been long. It was long overdue, long overwaited. From 27 to 28, that was the D-date. If NLC did not agree in line with the government, of course, there would have been an ongoing protest today. But before we go into details, what was your anticipations, your thrive, your fear, if there was any at the beginning? Because I know you covered the event. What did you expect?
Yeah, prior to the protest, we had dialogue with the NLC, with the security agencies, where they were threatening, advising them to shun the protest, but they insisted that is in according to the law that they are protesting, and to the fact that it's not just about them, but about the hunger in Nigeria, and all of this, that it wasn't just about the welfareism of the Nigerian workers. So all of these was a concern, because generally we had a fight between the federal government saying that you should actually put it out there, and also insisting that they will. But at the end of the day, we give it to the security agencies, the DSS, the police, and all the security agencies for cooperating with NLC, because sometimes it means that law is not being respected in the country, because everybody have the NLC have the right to protest, and for whatever reason that we're protesting for was according to the laid down rules. This was a peaceful protest to be. It wasn't about violence. So the fact that security agencies granted support to NLC must be really applauded, because it now speaks volume for the fact that these people have human face. They understand that these are Nigerians, and for the fact that whatever NLC were protesting also have a direct or indirect benefit to even the security agencies, because when the economy works, a lot of issues that is going on will be addressed, and this has to do with everybody's business. So the protest was came with a lot of hopes, high hopes, but then it was met with a lot of expectations, and the demand they presented to the National Assembly was fantastic.
Do you know, before we dive into it, let's just, during the NLC president, Ajuri Igalale, he came out and said, do not use economic hardship for your political agenda. And he was speaking to Joe.
The spokesman of the president.
Exactly. So what's your take on that, using this particular protest as a political campaign just to get a political appointment? Do you think it's all about that, or he's just blowing things out of proportion?
Yeah, government will always find it difficult to align with anybody who is actually anti-fighting their policies. And if you look at the 3rd October 2023, when the NLC met with the federal government after the initial protest that they had an agreement with the federal government. They presented some recommendations to the government. Fantastic, you've removed subsidy, but these are the things that we must do. At the end of the day, it's over some months after government have not implemented one out of the so many recommendations by NLC. So it also came to the fact that it wasn't just about the fact that NLC are not in any way supporting the subsidy removal, but they also suggested what government must do, to to reduce the hardship in the country. They made reference to the fact that even in the regime, a military regime, we have not faced, Nigerians have not really faced this hardship. Not because we've not had hardship in this country, but this one have been renewed instead of the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu that renewed hardship to the country. So the NFC recommended some solutions to the government, but government, did not adhere to it. So the spokesman to the president feeling, of course, of describing the protests and the actions of NLC to be a move, to be a political move. It's worrisome because anybody who understands the current terrain in the country knows that it's not just about anybody. It's not about APC. It's not about PDP. Nigerians are feeling the heat, and even the APC members are today calling on the president they voted for, to look at reviewing the policies to get things wrong. So this is not a time for politics, and nobody should talk from what I was there, because it wasn't just about NLC alone. We have people of the civil society groups and other organizations coming out to join NLC. So I didn't think it was something about NLC alone. They would have just been the members of NLC. But we have people cut across all the country organizations to be there, speaking one mind, speaking one voice that things are hard and government must begin to do things, solutions must be provided to address the hardship in the country. So it wasn't a political move, I must say.
Okay, aside that, now let's look at the labor union, for instance. Of course, the TUC and other labor unions pulled out of this particular protest. 65 of them pulled out because they say, in their own words, in quotes, that it's not part of the agenda in which the NLC they're actually protesting for. So they actually pulled out. Do you think that there is no unity when you come to labor parties coming together, having that synergy, one-on-one synergy? What do you make of that?
Yeah, the TUC has always been with the NLC, and of course there are the strong umbrellas of a union that protect the right of Nigerian workers and traders and all of that. But them pulling out, joining with about 64 other groups, pulling out from the protest was an indication of the fact that for the first time, NLC have prioritized people, Nigerians first. Because as I said earlier, the protest wasn't just about the workers. The TUC like queuing behind when it has to do with issues affecting their members directly. Very true. But for the first time, NLC says no. We understand that minimum wage have not been increased. Their demands to the government to increase, to take care of the welfareisms of their members have not been attended to, and all of that. But for the fact that there's hardship in the country, people,
and it concerns each and every one of us.
And then that was the move for the protest. And for some political reasons, for some reasons or motive for TUC to pull out from the protest is best known to them. But the point has been made by NLC. Nigerians have supported NLC for this, and for the first time they're actually protesting for Nigerians. Because we don't have an umbrella to organize a protest. What government failed to understand is that they must begin to, they should appreciate NLC. Because you saw what happened in Niger State, you saw what happened in Lagos State, you saw what happened in other states. These are unorganized protests. And if government, you understand how NSA started, it was unorganized because there was nobody, controlling. Nobody was answerable to whatever actions that these people took. So for the fact that NLC are bringing an organized protest, bringing people, there's an order, there's a spokesman, there's a face to call when things go south, and then that's what NLC simply did. So TUC pulling out it's their own business. Nigerians are happy that
not just TUC. There are 65 labor unions that pulled out of this particular protest.
Yeah, there are numbers forming under the TUC. The TUC are the big fish because it has always been a fight between. It has always been a cooperation between NLC and TUC. So other groups like other civil society may have their own, as I said, their own personal reasons for pulling out. But for the fact that this concerns Nigerians, it shouldn't be something that at the time, like a critical time like this in our country, people should, try to paint politics or paint whatever motive, attaching feelings to a demand that it has to do protecting the Nigerian citizens. So it was the right actions taken by NLC.
Okay. Now, you covered the event yesterday. You were there on ground and saw what played out. What happened? The environment, how was it? You just tell us, you're like our mouthpiece now. So what actually played out from, and tell us the locations
the
movement, FCT.
The NLC converged at the Unity Fountain at the very opposite Transcorp Hiltons in Abuja at the early hours of yesterday. And that was when the president came, the members came from their house, the Labour House, still at that central area close to the Secretariat unit. They came down to Unity Fountain, met with the people, and of course with the placards of different people the move from the Unity Fountain, you know, approaching Ministry of Finance from the High Court areas of that secretariat wings of State Secretariat, I mean the Federal Secretariat, they moved down to the National Assembly. And for the first time, the gate of the National Assembly was open. Because the last time I covered the NLC protest, they faced resistance by the police manning the gate of the National Assembly. But yesterday was quite very, as I said, you know, there are more reasons to appreciate the police. They have done something different from what we see in other countries, in developing countries. Because when people are doing protests, you know, the security had to guide, the security had to secure, they had to be with them. So they did that uniquely. You know, DSS were in all the nooks and crannies of that particular area described, and then they went into the National Assembly. The gate was actually open for them. So they went directly, you know, to the very apex where people do converge, the center of the National Assembly, and then the Senate Senate delegation of senators to receive the NLC, and they read out their demands to the government, and they presented them to I
want to know, tell us, what are their demands? I know you have all their demands stated. Let's see how realistic these demands are. You know how it is when it comes to Nigeria. We have to, there has to be a protest first before immediate action will be taken. So please read out demands.
The NLC read out, presented 17-point demand to the federal government yesterday. Part of that is that a full implementation of the welfare provisions as contained in the Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic by making those provisions justifiable. They also made instances on employment generation through massive investment in agriculture and value-added manufacturing. They also talked of immediate subsidy to farmers to boost agricultural production and food security. They also made reference to the fact that they should open up food storage and enforce equitable distribution across the country. Immediate fixing of abandoned factories and revival of local production and patronage of made-in-Nigeria goods and services, fixing of the 4 refineries as a matter of urgent national priority, making electricity and water available, affordable and accessible to all citizens, massive investment in road, rail infrastructure and social housing, immediate deployment of cheap mass transportation, bus powered by CNG to ease the crisis of transportation for the poor people, to put an end to further privatization and liberalization of the economy, and to take control of the commanding height of the economy in line with Section 16(1) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They also make reference to the fact that they should go after the oil subsidy cabal and other economic saboteurs instead of helpless Nigerians, to put a stop to all dollarizations of the Nigerian economy, to put a stop to wasteful spending and in government, for proper and adequate funding of education and healthcare at all levels, adequate provision for social security for the aged and vulnerable, to pay all outstanding wages and pensions and all tiers of government, fast-track negotiation and implementation of new national minimum wage. That is their own personal. You see, all of these lists, you know, wasn't about them. You know, this is the first. These are about the 16 points that they actually had to bring in the issues of minimum wage. Finally, they call on the total abandonment of IMF and World Bank policies as they bring extreme hardship to Nigerians, as well as imperialize security and sovereignty. These were the 17-point agenda presented by NLC, presented to the government yesterday.
No, I want to ask, you know, all of these 17 points agenda, they make a lot of sense. Like we all see, it is for the benefit of Nigerians. 15 of them for, look, let's say 16 of them. It's just one that has to do with paying minimum wage. Exactly. But looking at it critically, how realistic is the government going to fulfill all of these demands? Remember, this started since last year when NLC came out in their mass, October 23rd at that point, and then there were some demands which are not met till date. How sure, how realistic would these demands be met?
Yeah, for instance, let's talk about immediate fixing of abandoned refineries, factories and all of that. We understand that we are not producing in this country, and we are importing more, and if a non-productive economy cannot in any way be sustainable, you know, regarding whatever funds that you have, no matter what transactions you're making and all of that. So the point is that if subsidy was removed, then our refineries would have been put to work. We must begin to do the productions here. And even factories, and look at the issues of abandoned factories of government, you know, even a last thing as a toothpick. You know, Obasanjo once said that toothpick is still being imported to this country. So we are not in any way producing and adding to the fact that, and this is what government would have done. So the questions that are, okay, the money that you have saved from subsidy, what have you used this money for? So the NLC saying that they should actually, you know, subsidize agriculture is a good move. These are things that government must sit down. What can we do to address the issues that is facing us. We have removed the subsidy, but the hardship is high. And even before removing subsidy, these are the things that the mechanisms that would have been in place for this thing to strive. Exactly. Because you cannot remove subsidy, the only welfare option of Nigeria, because a common Nigerians only benefited from the issues of the subsidy. Because every other things are what Nigerians struggle to get, struggle to buy, and that was the only product by government subsidizing it for away from education that is not really being subsidized, and then all of this. So
the feeding program is a struggle.
Absolutely. So you look at every other policies of government hasn't really been helpful to Nigerians away from the subsidy. So removing it, it means that you would have put things in place. Economy would have been producing. So at the moment where we are producing, we are depending on ourselves, then would have been enough. Look at food. We are not having food insecurity in the country. Agricultural, the farmer who is producing cassava in a particular area find it very hard to move his or her finished product down to the town because of high rate of transportation. And this person has to depend on this for him or her to survive. So things have been hard without anything being done. Look at the issue of transportation. You are living in the Federal Capital Territory. Me and you are living in the Federal Capital. We've seen how people are suffering. At the close of work, go to stand a beggar, stand at some different junctions of the Federal Capital. You see people not being able to afford, the transportation fare back home. And they have to wait all day looking for an Hilux or whatever other vehicle for them to join back home. These are the issues. What about the buses, the CNG buses that the federal government had proposed? Up to now, it has not been implemented. Just about today that we've seen that FCT have actually commissioned or launched out the buses. But after 8 months of subsidy removal means when you are now being responsive. So it might be that this is the benefit of the NLC protest. We do hope that we'll have more of this. But the recommendation and the demand is in order. If government must sit down with them, if government must sit down with the professionals and technocrats and stop politicizing policies, then this thing can be done. Very achievable.
But yesterday from your report, I gathered that there was some counter-protest. What's that all about?
Yeah, you see, Nigeria, everybody tries to make business out of everything and every move. It was surprising that we had a group who described themselves as the Network of Civil Society for Economic Sustainability. At the moment where NLC were done with the protest at the National Assembly about leaving, and we saw another group, coming in from the gate of the National Assembly to counter the protest by NLC. And there are so many questions that one may begin to ask. And at the point where I was able to speak to one or two of them, and I quite don't understand Hausa because so many of them were using Hausa. So I had someone who was able to interpret what they were saying. That according to them, they were at the mosques, national mosques, and some groups of persons brought a car, brought a polo, and told them that we will give them 5,000 naira to join them to the National Assembly. And someone, the person I was standing with now asked those guys, do you know why these people are protesting? They say no. He said that you understand things are hard. Have you eaten today? He said no. Do you have money for your transportation bag? Like making instances of the hardship of the country. The person was saying no. That is what these people, the NLC and other guys that are coming out from the National Assembly are protesting. That is for your own good. He said, why am I here? Because they told us that they'll give us 5,000. That's why we are here. Wow. So that's the hardship that government have reduced Nigerians to. At the moment where even if you want to do the wrong thing in this country at the wrong time, you definitely have Nigerians supporting you because and sometimes illiteracy is also contributing to this.
Very true.
These are, if you look at the kids that were there, these are the people that would have either been in the secondary school, the primary school, studying their books and all of that. But because education is not, education has not been empowered.
It's like
and governments have slipped over education, and then people now are just there on the street, hunger, illiteracy and all of that. So at the end of the day, we saw that this was a group sponsored by some group of government because the face of the president was there. So a kind of a Tinubu support group emerging under this other group to counter the protest of NLC. Everybody are not against the president. These are the things that they needed to know. Everybody are not against the president. Or what the NLC are saying that we are with you, but these are the things that you must do.
Yes.
So coming out to counter the protest at the time that they did, maybe they would have even probably proposed another day for their own protest.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, so for them to come that day was also affected. It would have affected the security. You would have breached the security of architecture of that yesterday because had it been the security men were not there, what would have happened? That this other group would have actually exchanged words with. We don't know what would have, how it would have ended with. But for the fact that they came and also registered their point that NLC should reconsider their protest action and embrace dialogue with government. And this is what NLC have been doing so far. They have been dialoguing with the government every day. That the protests in any way that are advocating for that there are legitimate demands of workers, and they are attempting to disrupt economic activities through the unnecessary protests and all of that, that they should be patient with the president. Every Nigerians have been patient enough for the past 8 months.
Yes,
we have been patient enough. Nigerians are the receiving end of the current economic realities of this country. We've not seen our members of National Assembly. That's what I'm reporting, what the Nigerians are saying. We've not found members of National Assembly coming out to say, oh, we've given our stipends or salary back to Nigerians for this, we've done this, that and that. And even what the government are doing. You know what,
Michael, yesterday I spoke with Deji Adigboye. Of course, he is a consultant, a security expert. And he said, as a Nigerian, we need answers. It's not all about you telling us that removal of subsidy will make Nigeria better after a time. We'll go through a little bit of hardship. Then later on, you should come out and address us. Once you address us, it will give that sense of hope and belonging that, okay, this is the way forward as of now. But no one is coming out to address us. We only hear of palliatives that will be given, which do not even reach the downtrodden individuals in our society. The hardship is increasing more and more every day. Criminality here and there. But surprisingly, the NLC protest yesterday in all the states, from Oshogbo to Alausa, that's in Lagos, and to Akwa Ibom, to Imo, Kaduna, it was peaceful. What would you say about the security agents? Did they keep their word?
Yeah. I earlier highlighted that they kept their words, and you made a point about engagement of citizens, and that's what I want to do. The government they have intentionally kept Nigerians away, from what they are doing. The level of citizen engagement with the federal government or with the policies of government is very low. And there's no how any Nigerian can begin to feel sense of belonging and then understands with you. You're calling on, making sacrifices, patience, and all of that can begin to work. Take a look at the funds that the federal government gave out to the state governors, to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. What has been done? Has anybody asked the state governors questions?
No.
The billions that was given to the governors, they took it to their state. Some of them, they shared among themselves, did some party political settlement and all of that. This was the funds coming from the federal government. So sometimes the concentration has been on the federal government, but down to the state and to the local government, we have 3 tiers of government: the federal government, the state, and the local. As these 3 tiers of government properly been engaged, are Nigerians really engaged? All what Nigerians are, the time that Nigerians are being engaged are during the election. That every election year we are told to go and get PVCs to vote, and sometimes it's sad after election.
And to come in and before the election, and that is when Nigerians are being engaged on the manifestos. Vote for me. This is the way forward. Exactly. But when they are in power, we do not
keep Nigerians away.
Yes,
Make effort to go to the National Assembly without knowing anybody. You see that it's difficult for you to have access to the National Assembly. Make effort to go to a ministry as a Nigerian to make inquiry for something. It will be difficult. Look at the employment. How many of these have been put on website for Nigerians to have access to? Every day, every week, we have been told from report that some of parastatals and agencies are employing Nigerians, and sometimes you look at all of this, it's not encouraging. So the engagement, citizen engagement, is absolutely low. Yes, if you arrest one today, at the end of the day, we do not know what happened to the property that was that was picked and all of this. And at the end of the day, we see that government just do their business, and Nigerians are left to also feel the impact and be at the receiving end of every government policy. The issue of subsidy removal, I tell you that the Nigerian politicians, our leaders, are still doing very well. But who are those at the receiving end of the crisis of subsidy removal? These are the Nigerians. So when you tell us to make sacrifices, what sacrifice have you made? What is your level of engagement? Have you been close to me for me to understand that yes, there is no funds, there is no this, I have to.
Have you made me understand what these policies really mean?
That to work. For instance, good and fine. The government have convinced Nigerians that subsidy removal is a good option. That this will send the cabals away and all of this and all of this. But How long have you really sat with us to tell us this and what you've put in place?
What it entails.
And in few this time, this period of time, that this will be over and then things will work. And this is what you have been able to do to arrest this. But it seems that, you know, the government just will keep quiet, will make a policy, the silence. The CBN governor floated in naira, and today issue of fighting between dollars and naira is actually on the high side and all of this. So how would Nigerians begin to understand today that pursuing those build the change guys in Wuse Zone 4 and all of that? But they are not these guys are not the root causes. Who are those that owns the build the change in this country? Have government published the names of these people and all of this? So these are the level of lack of engagement. We do not even know the faces of people, you know, to really talk to. All we know is Tinubu.
Exactly.
Sometimes the president himself might not be the only, has not been the problem of this country. We have people in the system, we have people in government that Nigerians do not know. There's no level of engagement. Ministry of Information are not doing the work. The level of orientation and information is quite very low. Access of information as a journalist, you find it very difficult to get some information from government, parastatals, and agencies. But we have FOI laws and there are, acts that actually would have actually given us the right for us to have access to it. All of these are issues. Government must do better.
Government must do better. And at this point, we're going to go on a very quick break. Don't go anywhere. Insight Today continues shortly. You're welcome back, and yes, it is Insight Today on Global Television, and I am here with an in-house correspondent, Michael Edikan, and he has been throwing more light because he was there in the protest ground when it all took place and it happened. And we're going to be looking at the agenda of the NLC to the government at about this point. Michael, thank you for being a part of Insight Today.
Many thanks.
All right, and then looking at it now, number one says full implementation of the welfare provisions as contained in Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended by making those provisions justiciable. Now, looking at that critically, how possible do you think the welfare provision can be contained in that chapter of the Constitution to reach individuals in the society? Looking at it, what's your own take on that?
Yeah, it's a government responsibility to protect lives and properties of the people, and this is the essence when government was elected. And at the moment where you are not in any way doing this, that means you failed as a government.
True.
And it seems, as I said earlier, that these governments have been trying to push their weaknesses to Nigerians, because the moment where you are unable to control your economy as a country, as a government, you are unable to control your territorial economy, borders. And borders and all of that. It means that you are running for help for over 8 months. You felt the government. So NLC are demanding that government must go back to look to the fact that they owe Nigerians the responsibility to use our resources within the sovereign nation, to increase our level of welfareism and the better lives of Nigerians. So the government must begin to understand that nothing makes sense at all if they do not in any way take care of Nigerians. I mean, if the hardship is too much, the worst might get to happen. So issue of welfareism of people, not just the Nigerian workers, of different policies that you're making. Look at the issue of poverty alleviation. The minister went with the issue of 500 and something million corruption at the ministry. But this was a ministry that was created, to alleviate the rate of poverty in the country. The money meant for the vulnerable and the poorest of the poor of this country has not been utilized. So there is a reminder to the government that they hold Nigerians the responsibility to making sure that the welfare of Nigerians are really met at high standard.
I spoke about the Renewed Hope Initiative, the one by the wife of the president, Oluremi Tinubu, and I said most individuals in the rural areas have not really, is it rural urban now, have not gotten access to that renewed hope. Many widows, the vulnerables, have not really gotten access when it comes to that renewed hope agenda. I think government needs to do more, just like what is stated here by the NLC. Really, you need to take care of Nigerians' lives, properties, and the welfareism of Nigerians. You're very correct. Now, looking at number 2, I looked at this and I laughed. I didn't really like, but looking at it, employment generation through massive investment in agriculture and valued added manufacturing. Manufacturing, I can understand. But looking at agriculture and looking at the insecurity we have in these areas when it comes to the northeast, when it comes to areas where we have terrorism, we have banditry, we have kidnappings going on, how visible is number 2?
Yeah, I will align with you because it's funny because for the fact that government in any way has not really made any move to address the issue of security. The issue of security is still on the high side in the country. If you go to Benue State, they call them food basket of the nation. Of course. And I interacted with an indigenous of that state. Are you guys really still the food basket of this country? He laughed about it because we have low farmers, low production, low farm produce, and all of this. And even the few that we have, it's still on the high side for people to begin. For Nigerians to buy. To go to the market today, a model of gari, is actually high. The local rice itself, they close borders against rice, and now we are eating local rice. A bag of local rice today is
78,000.
You can imagine. So when you look at all of these things, you now begin to ask questions. A low-income earner in Nigeria, how would this person be able to cope? A family of 6. What capacity? How do you want this person to survive? So it means that the government must begin to pay attention to this. Our farm must be secured. Priorities should be given to our farmers. It must at the level of the fact that these are the driving force of our economy. There will be hunger, and now
there is hunger already.
And
starvation
is actually on the high side. Hardship. Describe whatever you want to put it, because it is sad. People cannot afford what they used to normally within the level of income. Now, like for instance, if you're earning 100,000 naira as of last year, you were able to buy fuel at 189 naira or 200 naira at most at some filling stations, and then you were able to buy a bag of rice as of 45,000 as of then, and all of that, 35K and all of that. So if you look at all of these things, now income has not been increased, but the expenditures has been on the triple, not just a two-dimension issues here, about 300% increase. So it's hard on Nigerians, really, and these are the things that government must begin to do. Part of the
number 2 and number 3 are together when it has to immediate subsidy to farmers to boost agricultural production and, of course, food security. I understand that with what you've just said. Number 2 and 3 together. Now, open all food storage silos and enforce equitable distribution across the country. Of course, for me, is that realistic, Michael? Because we do not even have a database. When you say distribution of foods, how many individuals in the society or the the states will actually have access to this distribution of foods. And in our agricultural barns, how many foods? Do we even have enough foods? There we say Minister of Agriculture, for instance, can he give account of how many bags of rice, bags of grains, bags of beans, bags of gari, how many bags? Is this visible? This particular number 4, I look at it and I wonder how visible, how realistic is this number 3? Looking at it critically when we do not have a solid database.
Distribution has been a problem in this country, and it's not just about this current government. It has happened to the fact that we've not paid attention to the fact that we are running a presidential system of a federal system of government, where we understand that we have 3 tiers of government that must be recognized at all times. So, for instance, we have the president and, of course, the federal government giving out some palliative to the states, to take to their people. That I was asking the question before now. What are the statistics? How many people in your village have called, and of course your interaction, that they have received what the federal government sent from Abuja? So it has only stopped. Sometimes, if you even get to their state, it stops at the capital city of that state. The local government has not been involved. These are the people that are closer to the grassroots. Everybody in this country belongs to the local government. The 774 local government of this area. These are the people that must be involved. And if you look at what some state governors are doing, they have failed to conduct local government elections to have local government chairmen. They perpetually make appointment of committees so that they can be in control of them. So what some state governors do, like in Anambra State, for over about 2-3 years of being in government, he has appointed several committees. But there's a law mandating him to conduct election, using the state to conduct election to the local government. So we have a tiers of government that has failed, that has been abandoned by the state. And these are actions by the state. So there's no how distribution can be eased. So for instance, you give to a state governor is meant to call the local government within the state, look what the federal government has given to cushion the effect of this. Add your own as a state. We have allocations given to states. What are the efforts made by states? What are the efforts made by the state governors or some commissioners? So you see, at the end of the day, it doesn't work. So many distribution policies or even moved by the federal government has not gotten to the grassroots because of, the link has not properly been utilized. So it's the high time federal government needs to understand that it's wrong for them to be sending things to state. They should start sending it to the local government. Let it go to the wards. Let it go to the polling unit. Let it go to the villages that we have in this country. These are the only thing that it can work. Away from that, the solution government are jumping on to just provide a palliative is not just the way out of all of this. The economy must begin to work so that people can earn their living. Because you cannot keep on feeding Nigerians. For how long? What is the sustainability capacity of giving palliative? So palliative is in no way, there's no country that palliative is given to people at the IDP camps, it's given to people that maybe they had a war in their country and all of that. So, but for a common Nigerian, a nation that is peaceful, not really peaceful, but a working nation like Nigeria, where people are working, but at the end of the day, they cannot feed themselves, is an indication that government must begin to fix the economy. Once you fix the economy, I'm able to work, I earn, I'm okay with what I have. It will serve you the energy of trying to use whatever funds to give me palliative.
Like talking about, let's expand on the palliatives of the 25,000 naira. How sustainable has the 25,000 naira been to families in Nigeria? Have you gotten the 25,000 naira?
The first, you should begin to drag the National Population Commission of this country to this. They were to do a census, they were to conduct a census. If you know a pre-exercise of the census, how much NPC have spent, you will weep on this country. Now, census have not been conducted. What are the statistics that you're using to indicate the poorest of the poor of Nigeria? Because this was what this was targeted at. So the moment you begin to understand that governments sometimes have fantastic idea, but the implementations has been the issue that we are facing in this country. So, and then government understand where there's a miss out on the link. But sometimes they paid their ears to do those actions. So we are at the point we do not have the statistics of a poorest of the poor. So a politician sitting at the Abuja who controls the list from his state, who gives about whatever number requested by the federal government from Akwa Ibom, give me name, from Imo State, give me name. So sometimes the person sitting at the cover send his personal assistants, to bring names of people. So these are the people that will come randomly, pick the names of families, names of relatives. At the end of the day, they compile the list, take to the federal government to credit those accounts. So a poorest of the poor sometimes does not even have an account, like does not even have a bank account. So these are the people, these are the kind of people that money would have been taken to their village. Oh, this woman does not even have network. She does not, he or she does not even have a phone, a mobile phone, a device to even access the transfers that you want to do. So these are the people that funds would have been taken to them. So even the steps by the federal government has been thwarted by some individuals, by some politicians, by some Nigerians, making this thing not working. So the moment where you are unable to fix the system, whatever ideas, the policies, solutions you might be given might not work. And that is what government must first pay attention to. There's a need for the country to conduct, to go back to conduct a census so that we really know the statistics of Nigerians. We know the poor Nigerians, we know the average Nigerians and all of this. This is when things come, when you want to distribute, when you want to share. You can be able to, America does not just work in isolation of
they have a
database. They work with data.
It's very important. Now, still on the agenda of the NLC to the federal government, immediate fixing of abandoned factories and revival of our local production and patronage of made in Nigerian goods and services. Now, made in Nigerian goods and services, let's look at cement, for instance. Cement is, as we speak, 13,000 naira. And of course, cement was being sold at 5,500 and it rose to 7,000 and then 8,000 naira. And we get our materials here in Nigeria. How realistic is that when we patronize made in Nigerian products, the prices will be better? Some of the materials that are used are quality and not quantity, because if the truth be told, Michael, let's be realistic. If you see a particular product that is from America, you see one from Nigeria, which would you buy? Let's be realistic. You pick the one from the foreign land because we feel it's more quality than the one in Nigeria. So how realistic is this particular made in Nigerian goods and services when we know how Nigerians, how we get when it comes to issues of making our materials and all of, our services. Looking at that.
It's about patriotism. There are some products, I agree with you, that naturally Nigeria does not have the capacity, to produce. And whatever producers that we're having in the country today, trying to do an imitation of what the foreign countries are doing might be appreciated, but then they need time to be able to work. But there are some basic services that we have, that some basic product that we are having, that we are importing in this country that is not necessary to helping our economy. This is what the NLC has said, that we must begin to prioritize. For instance, the innocent motors today. We still have the National Assembly going out to buy foreign the Toyota, Lexus, and all of that, Mercedes, back to the country. Because we've tested the innocent car, the innocent cars, for instance. It's working. So why don't the government see how they can prioritize that? Look at
and invest more in it.
That's what the Anambra State governor is using. He's using the innocent motor. So if a governor is using that, what happened to the senators? Do you know how much was allocated to the purchase of SUVs to the senators? 109 senators and over 360 House of Reps. So these are the questions we must begin to ask. So if government do not in any way within themselves, when they want to procure some items, consider first what are Nigerians producing, then it will not work. A common Nigerian who has the money might still want to go and get things. Look at the issue of importation of wigs that you are wearing. So it's actually on the high side.
How dare you?
It's actually on the high side. It's actually on the high side. That's what I'm saying.
He just used my...
it's not just your wig. Like Nigerian women are going after the issue
bone straight.
The bone straight. Them, all of this. So we have been... But what happened to natural air? What happened to, all of this? We do not want to go into the context of that. But
let's not go into
the context of that. But at the moment where we see how we can first see, buy our own products, encourage our local production. Because government, why these things are also failing is that government are not encouraging the local, producers. Government are not encouraging them. Look at Innocent. If Innocent was not as strong, I don't know how strong he was to able to do that. They pull out a loan, it wouldn't have worked. Look at Dangote refineries. The man has been fighting by himself. All this money he borrowed from America and all of that to do that. Have we had federal government, partnering with such a project, capital project, and all of that? So and now look at it. That's a local producers. So the moment where government are not in any way making environment conducive for producers to be able to do things to produce themselves and also supporting them, it will keep on being an issue. So what NLC are demanding in that aspect is that they must encourage local producers so the economy can actually work. We must reduce importation.
And of course, invest in local producers
Yes,
as well.
exactly.
Now, before we go into it, like we said, there are a lot more. But let me ask you, what makes this particular protest different from others? We've seen that the NLC, they went on, there was a protest last week that there was a 2-day strike warning, a warning strike.
Yeah.
But what makes this particular protest different from what we've seen from the NLC?
Yeah, it's different, it's unique because this has not been sponsored, because several other protests by NLC and TUC has always been described to be political. You understand, Labour Party came from the Labour Union, and sometimes there have been indication that Joe Ajero, who is from the Southeast, has been sponsored by the Southeast politicians for them to disrupt government of President Buhari and now the administration of Bola Tinubu. But this process, its uniqueness has been the fact that it has not just been about NLC and TUC. It's about other civil society, other organizations, other groups, other Nigerians who voluntarily went out there, joining their voice to the demands of NLC. So at the moment, it had an impact because it's an indication of the fact that also telling government that, look, this is an organized message, not just about some group of people gathering in Mina at Niger State, some group of people gathering in Lagos, in Ikorodu, and all of that. It's about a face coming out to give you an information. It seems the president is not aware of what Nigerians are facing, and sometimes those at the Aso Rock are blocking the president from really hearing some kind of message that he has to know. So the NLC moves has yielded good impact and result, and we do hope that it will bring more results. Just as we've read today, we now have a FCTA having to commission the buses to assist transportation in the Federal Capital Territory. So we do hope that they move, and of course the protest was not just about in the Federal Capital Territory, it was all over the state. So state governors will begin to sit out, oh, I have a role to play, I have a sacrifice I have to make, I have the contribution to make, not just looking at the federal government. What can I do within my level as the state governor, to see how we can cushion the effect? If everybody joins his hands, to support what NLC are demanding, trust me, the Nigerian's economy will be stable.
Now, looking at this, what are the potential risks and challenges associated with this protest if their demands are not met? Yeah,
it's already happening as an indication of the fact that we may have a return of NSAS protest, because the moment where people are speaking, then you are not hearing. And the moment when people are speaking, you are not making move or responding or taking an necessary action. Because that was how the police brutality started. Nigerians were speaking against the police brutality, the force brutality and all of that. So it seems government were not hearing and they took to the street. So the moment where people are telling you, I'm like a child telling you I'm hungry, he keeps on telling you how he's hungry. He may be forced to go to the kitchen to find what to eat.
That's true.
So the moment federal government allows Nigerians to go into the street to find what to eat, there will be breakdown of law and order in the country. So that is the danger of it. And we are afraid that we do not want a repeat of NSAS, because it's about the destructing of several. Look at what Lagos State government today are still repairing. They are still fixing, some of the destruction of NSAS. Even in my state, there's a private individual who built a plaza and that was totally destroyed. Up to now, we're still finding it very difficult, to raise the funds to fixing of all those kind of places. So it will be sad, because if we get a repeat of that, when now that the economy is really bad, and then you now do that kind of thing to someone, businesses, it might be a very difficult one for Nigerians. So we do not want to get to that point. So that is the danger of it. If government fails to understand that there is a need for them to listen to what Nigerians are saying, what NLC are saying in an organized way, and finding lasting solution, not just a lasting solution. We want to start feeling the solutions that is being made, because some of these policies that have been making has just been, it's a nice policy, you hear a floating of Naira, it's to encourage this and that, might be an option, but it's affecting Nigerians. So if need be, and part of what they recommended also, from the street, it wasn't part of the recommendation because they're in support of the subsidy, but some members of the protest, when I interviewed them, they said if need be for them to reverse back the subsidy, they should consider that. Maybe when they reverse back the subsidy, things begin to take shape. They can now find, strategies in seeing out what they can do before removing it. Then they must do that. For now, Nigeria is very hot. Nigeria is very, very hot, and we don't want it to, to get to the point where it blows out of order, because there will be total breakdown of law and order in the country.
Definitely.
That is a negative impact, and if government fails to listen to what the people are saying at a time like this.
But Michael, sometimes I sit down and I wonder that he has to take protests. Sometimes it has to take strike. Sometimes it has to take disorderliness for the government to actually hear the cries of citizens in our nation, Nigeria. Sometimes it's worrisome to see that. Is it that the government, they don't see that people are going through hardship? Does it have to take a protest, strike, and violence for the government to actually have that round table counter offer with the citizens and all of that? Why is it so? It's so upsetting to even look at it or even hear it sometimes.
Yeah, that is the situation we find in our country. Nigerians have been at the receiving end of every actions and every policies of government. So at every time we find it very difficult to just sit back at our homes. Thanks to social media, where it has given the Nigerians a platform for them to begin to speak. Prior to this time, as I said, government were not in any way interested about informing Nigerians of whatever they're doing. Things would happen. Nigerians are not aware. And then Nigerians will not even have an organized way of taking an action against the government. So sometimes it happens that they're intentionally taking Nigerians for granted. And that the moment where Nigerians are now being aware that, see, the moment we are silent, the moment we are not talking,
we have rights.
We have the right. The laws covers us.
Exactly.
So the moment we are not utilizing all of this, we are at the receiving end.
Yes, we are.
Just look at the election. If you do not go out to vote, you'll be at the receiving end. If you do not participate in the process, you'll be at the receiving end. Whatever action, whatever decision has been taken, has a binding. Of course, you are in the country, so it has to have a ban on you. So that is why Nigerians are now being aware. Federal governments have been for so many years have been taking Nigerians for granted. So Nigerians are now coming out to participate in the process. But in participating in the process, we are participating in the process in the point where things and the system are not really working. For instance, if you want to make some special demand, there are some laws that covers you to make such a demand. So the moment where you want to make a demand and then you are being denied, it makes Nigerians, it provokes some Nigerians, and then it makes some people take laws into their hands. So government must need to understand that in the 21st century that we are, the Nigerians of yesterday are not the Nigerians of today. No, and they must begin to pay attention and listen to Nigerians, involve Nigerians and engage Nigerians. Nigerians are understanding people. Are quite very understanding people. Now,
in summary, what do you see prospects when it comes to this this peaceful resolution between NLC and the federal government? Do you see any prospects at all? Yeah,
about the suspension of the protest?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. For NLC to suspend the protest means that NLC are not an aggressive body. It's about the listening people, because that yesterday disrupted, operations of government, and because all workers some were on the street and all of that. So the moment they keep on doing this, they are also encouraging some other groups to emerge out of this. So for the fact that they have given the government the demand. To me, the 2-day protest wasn't necessary. It was just about a day of action, for you to actually present your demands. So for them to suspend the 2nd day of the protest is a move by the right direction. So the prospect is the fact that government may, of course, need to understand that they have to listen to NLC, and it will have a more impact. It will bring more resolutions because since they have to wait for the citizens to begin to protest before they take an action, then they should actually do what NLC has given to them. Because we do hope that this is the only way. Nigeria is ours, it's a country, and for them to be able to address these issues, they must begin to look at the demands of NLC, dialogue with several stakeholders to see what you can do so that this can be addressed. And I feel that is the way forward.
That is the way forward. All right. Thank you so much, Michael Edikan, for being a part of Insight today and breaking it out. Really, being an in-house correspondent, you have done justice in covering this particular report that has to do with the protest by the NLC. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. And with that, I have to wrap it up on Insight today. Hope you were well informed about the strike that happened yesterday and the suspension of the one that was supposed to take place today. And you heard about the resolutions and all of the things that the NLC are demanding. Thank you all so much for being a part of the program. I am Jumai Manson. Good afternoon.